Ladies and gentlemen, hello. We are here with Mr. Ambrose Kam from Lockheed Martin. He's been driving the innovation in the company for more than 20 years. He's a frequent lecturer in MIT, Georgia Tech, and Purdue University. And of course, he holds a lot of multiple US patents regarding cybersecurity, blockchain, quantum resistant ledger tech. Thank you for being here with us, Mr. Kam. Hello.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
There is a lot of discussion regarding cyber threats, cybersecurity, cyberspace, but you see, most of people have a narrow-minded perspective regarding cyberspace. So I would like from you to hear the definition for people to understand more what is in general cybersecurity, and of course the cyberspace we're referring to.
Sure. So cyberspace in general is considered as a virtual environment that might include the internet, local area network, wide area network. So in general, whenever that you have a network device, you're actually part of that cyberspace. So it can be your cell phone, your computer, your IoT devices, like Alexa, for example.
Mm-hmm. Of course, when we are referring to cyberspace, we have also to consider all the dangers that are included in the cyberspace, as it should be almost a real space. So, what are the threats that a person or an individual person or a company or in general an organization can face inside the cyberspace? So give us a typical example of what is a cyber threat.
So a cyber threat typically is a potential or actual malicious activity that can compromise the security of a system, and that includes confidentiality, integrity, or availability. You get cyber threats because the system that you're on, say your iPhone, your computer, they have vulnerabilities, and so and these cyber actors who might have malicious intent to say, for example, to steal your data, to penetrate your computer, your cell phone, in order to steal your personal information, or maybe to perform some kind of denial of service, for example. So those are all kind of considered as cyber threats because the cyber actors, they have the intent, they have the means, they have the skills and capabilities to perform these malicious activities to your computer or to your phone.
Every person or a company actually, because due to the networking nature of the future, is actually vulnerable against these threats. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the reason why we put so much emphasis on cyber defenses, because of the privacy concern, because of the fact that you want to be able to use your device at all times. And so you need to first of all, identify threats and also stop potential cyber threats as well, which could undermine the whole infrastructure, for example. And so that's at the personal level, but also at the government or at the country level as well. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, after many years of delay, Greece has decided to expand its infrastructure, physical and, of course, digital ones. For example, we have decided to digitalize the public services. We have decided to install a supercomputer, as it is, used to be said. Actually, Daedalus, it's going to be named in Greece. Of course, we're expanding our military infrastructure. For example, we have acquired the new F-16 Vipers. We are expecting to get the F-35s. And all these have a common thing, that they are actually net-centric systems. So they're exposed to data servers or in the internet in general. Are there any, of course, similarities or differences in defending against threats regarding the civil and the military sector?
Yeah, that's a great question, and so in general, I would say that a lot of the systems that you mentioned, whether it is a government system or a commercial one or even a personal one, they actually share a lot of common software and hardware. And so the benefits of that is obviously that you can save costs, right? That you can actually build your software or hardware and actually use it in different places for different use cases. But the downside of that is also the fact that because a lot of the hardware software are actually common, you actually have the same, or very similar vulnerabilities across the board. And so that's really reason. For that reason, we need to be cognizant of all the cyber threats. And so I'll give you, one example. For example, email phishing attack. That has been around, for the longest time, and it's still being used, right? Because people are actually still, clicking some of the, emails that you're not supposed to be, clicking, and therefore, some of this, same attack vectors that's being used, that's being targeted at a personal level, that's being leveraged at the government or commercial sectors as well. So we need to be cognizant of a lot of these cyber threats and potential attack services as well. The other common thing, for example, would be like encryption, for example. So which is a fundamental thing that's across many different systems. And whether you're using typical RSA encryption or AES, for example, you are using one of these encryption schemes, and potentially over the next 10, 15 years, they can be defeated. They can be compromised due to, say, quantum threats. And so we, as part of the cyber industry, we need to be cognizant of these threats, and we need to come up with ways to counter potential attack vectors. And so we need to be proactive. And one of the movement that I've seen that the industry is kind of moving towards is what's called the zero trust architecture. And so and that includes multi-factor authentication. So that's why when you log into your bank system or email system, sometimes you'll be asked to have some kind of multi-factor authentication, where they will send you a piece of code over your cell phone, and then you need to put in not just your typical username password, but also this code that they that they generate in real time. And so that's part of it. And I think that the other thing that we need to be cognizant of is how we can actually address these evolving threats, because the cyber attackers, they also develop their own tools, and so their skill sets are also evolving and improving all the time. And so at the country level, or maybe at the enterprise level, we would encourage people to conduct periodic wargaming exercises to better identify what these threats might be. How can we come up with ways to counter these attack surfaces or attack vectors?
You mentioned earlier that the two-factor authentication is one of the new and major things regarding the security level. But you see, lately I've noticed this due to the AI, which is I think the new player regarding cyber threat, cybersecurity, of course. I've heard that sometimes they have programmed the AI to try to penetrate the two-factor authentication. So regarding the AI, which is actually the new big thing in the digital world, how could it affect both ways the cyber operations regarding, for example, for the bad things, increase the threat level, of course, or enhance the defensive capabilities? How would they be affected by the AI?
Yeah, that's a great question, and you're absolutely correct. AI is being used for both the cyber offensive purposes as well as defensive purposes. From the offensive standpoint, you can use AI learning agents to figure out what are the most effective or most optimum attack vectors that you would like to attack. And so in the process, what's called the AI red teaming, we basically use AI tools to help us identify, if we were the attacker, how would we attack a particular system? So we would play the role of a attacker. So the red team, if we are the bad guys, what are the things that we would like to do to your system? And so from performing an exercise like that, we can better understand how our systems, can be, attacked, and therefore we can come up with ways to protect our system. So that's from the offensive standpoint. From the defensive standpoint, AI is also being used for example, to perform anomaly detection purposes, or to come up with mitigations, for example, or to come up with, or to identify vulnerabilities of a system. And so human operators, we're not 24/7, 365, and so we cannot be at all places at all times. And so we are using some of these cyber AI defensive measures to help us at least better identify where the threats might be, where there might be cyber incidents that might be occurring, and therefore we can train our cyber operators to better respond to these threats or to these cyber incidents.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you mentioned before, of course, a physical person cannot be 24/7 on the system to check every threat, but I believe that all people in the new era should be trained to be ready to defend themselves or an organization, a civil government one, regarding the cyber threat. So Lockheed Martin is a lead company regarding cybersecurity. Are there any tools for people to be trained, developed from the company? And of course, how could we achieve what is called cyber hygiene inside an organization?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in general, I do think that we need to raise the awareness of cyber or potential cyber attacks. At the personal level, we need to practice cyber hygiene. Things like, if there's a suspicious, email or text that you received and they ask you to click on a link, please don't. It can be as simple as that. There are a lot of resources out there. There are, many YouTube videos or maybe, university classes that you can take. But in general, we need to be aware of a lot of threats out there. And so, as I said earlier, email phishing attack is still one of the most effective way of stealing someone's credential. And once they are in your system, or once they have stolen your credential, they can, do a lot of damage. Maybe, perform, ransomware, or maybe they can, steal your money. They can expose your medical records, that sort of thing. So we need to be cognizant of all the dangers there. I think also at a country level, I do, or maybe at an enterprise level, we do need to build a pipeline of cyber engineering talents as well. I think that's critical to not just Greece, but also any country as well. We will always hear of a shortage of qualified cyber professionals, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. We need to build our next generation of cyber talents over time. And, if, like, for example, here, we have done some work with the high school students or maybe university students. We have what's called the cyber quest or code quest. So really to get people interested to, in terms of not just programming, but also understanding what some of the cyber attacks might be. Get them interested. Maybe offer them some work opportunities as well. So those are the things that we have found, very effective in terms of getting the next generation of engineers that might be interested in cyber, for example.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the most effective way to defend against threats in general is collaboration and cooperation between countries. I should mention, of course, for example, in the military sector, NATO, which is the most effective in the whole world. And for example, in the civil section, let's mention the rescue, which is a specific organization to defend against natural disasters. So, is there any way for countries to build a partnership regarding cybersecurity, in the field of cybersecurity? And could also Greece play any kind of role in that if it is possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great idea in terms of sharing the threat information. We call this cyber threat intel. And so at individual, enterprises level, we have such means to share the cyber threat intel information with other companies or to share that with the public. And if you see that could be certain industry-wide what's called ISACs. So these are information sharing and analysis centers. So you might have one, for the software industry, for example, to better identify what are the known vulnerabilities and what are the mitigations as well. So things like that would be useful for the for the health and medical industry. They have their own ISAC, and then for utility for utility companies like power plant or maybe water treatment plant, that sort of thing. They have their own ISACs as well. But you're also right, at the country level, we do need to share information, and I think it can benefit everybody. If there is a certain cyber incidents that might have happened, other people might know about it, or they need to understand how the attackers might be attacking your country's infrastructure or maybe this company's database of some sort. I think that's important. Case in point, back in 2015, for example, there's the Ukraine power grid incident, and so their country's or at least part of their country's power grid was hacked, was compromised, and it caused system outage for a short period of time. And things like that. That's really important because we can understand what has happened, and we can come up with mitigations and come up with ways to counter some of these attack vectors.
Another sector which in general cyber warfare is referring to is actually the active defense. Well, I try to be political correct, but an active defense is regarding when a country or an organization has to defend itself. Sometimes the tool can be used actively. So, is there any way for countries to have this specific tool to use it against emerging threats, but as a preactive means of cyber security?
Yeah, so you're right. I think that in the past, the cyber industry, I would say that we were passive in the past. We would wait. There's a cyber incident here. Let's look at what has happened, and then we will come up with ways to counter these threats. So that's more of a something happened, then we would react. So it's a lot reactive in the past, but nowadays we would like to adapt this active, I would say even proactive defenses. And using the cyber intel that I just mentioned. And that's really important, right? Because we need to be able to come up with ways to identify vulnerabilities. And so we need to also look out for potential threats. And so system monitoring and any sort of anomaly detection would become important. We also have, in the industry as a whole, we also have what's called the security by design. And so the idea is that in the past, cyber was often considered as something that you just bolted on after you develop a system, maybe a phone, maybe a computer. Now you would implement some cyber security measures. And so we would like to kind of change that mindset. And so security by design means that we need to consider cyber throughout the system life cycle, from the initial system concept phase all the way down to to development, to deployment and sustainment. We need to think about cyber and what that really means. And so one of the things that we have been doing is actually looking identifying potential vulnerabilities. And so when at the time that we develop a system, it can be a car, can be an airplane, can be anything. But the point is that we would like to understand what are the potential vulnerabilities, and we can derive these vulnerabilities by looking at the software bill of materials, or SBOM, and then H-bomb, the hardware bill of materials. But really, the whole idea is that a lot of the vulnerabilities have already been identified, and we need to associate, hey, because you're running this particular operating system, running this particular version of application, we already know what are the vulnerabilities. So we need to be proactive and come up with mitigations, and that might mean patching periodically, or like I said, running some cyber exercises at the enterprise level or maybe at the country level. The other thing that we have also found very cost-effective is what's called the cyber tabletop, or CTT. So it's basically having a group of cyber experts in the room and maybe operators as well, and then we can share experiences and we come up with hypothetical scenarios and say that, hey, you have an airplane here, I want to exercise some kind of cyber attacks, maybe attacking the power generation, or maybe to attack the engine, ECUs, for example, or maybe other parts of the airplane, maybe navigation, for example. And then the whole idea is that if you have an objective or mission objective, then you can come up with mitigations. And so CTT is often seen as a cost-effective ways, or one of the cost-effective ways to identify vulnerabilities and to better understand some of the attack vectors. And so this is what we can do, at the system level, but we can also do this at a fleet level. If you have a fleet of, say, cars, or a fleet of, airplanes, or if you have at an enterprise level, maybe this is you're in charge of the IT, and you want to protect your data centers, for example. So we can actually run a lot of these, what we call, CTTs, or cyber war gaming, to gain a better understanding of what might happen, so that we can come up with mitigations.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess now, right now, the scenarios are numerous, and of course, with the implementation of AI and machine learning, the knowledge that is produced is every day bigger and bigger. But you see, Lockheed actually is a worldwide leading defense company. Well, it is basically known for the airplanes, the ships, the missiles, but it's also a leading company in cyber warfare, and of course in cyber defense. So how is Lockheed envisioned the future? Because we are saying AI, but the AI exists now. I mean, it's not actually the future. It is the situation we are right now. How Lockheed is envisioned the future after, for example, 10 or 15 or 20 years? And
yeah,
how
that's
is... Yeah, sorry, yes.
Yeah, so you're definitely right. I think that Lockheed consider cyber as one of the fundamental part of our systems, and also within the U.S. Department of Defense, or DoD, we think in terms of the 21st century security, and so there's a concept of what's called the Joint All-Domain Operations, or JADO. And so the DoD actually defines cyber as one of the 5 domain areas, and that includes airspace, land, surface, which includes subsurface as well, but also now cyber. And so cyber actually cuts across. It's part of our mission systems. It can be part of the infrastructure. And so what we would like to do is to apply our advanced technologies, like as what you mentioned, cyber AI, to better understand what the threats might be doing to us, so that we can improve our defensive posture, and also at the same time trying to improve the cyber resiliency and platform survivability. We all know that we cannot stop all the attacks at all times, and so it is important to anticipate that even if your system can be airplane, can be ships, if they're already under attack, are there ways that they can still perform their intended function? Can they still complete their missions, for example? So that's really important. At the end of the day, we need to make sure that even though that these systems are under physical or maybe cyber attacks, they still need to perform their intended function, and they need to be able to bring our warfighters home, essentially. And so this 21st century security, that's really paramount to US DoD, not just Lockheed Martin. And I think the same principles can be applied to Greece as well. Greece, as I understand it, it has been under cyber attacks. There are many different forms, including like denial of service to some government infrastructures or to government organizations. There's ransomware attacks, and so and those are the same type of cyber attacks that we have seen in other countries as well. And so we need to be able to apply this mission resilience and mission assurance principles to a country like Greece as well. And I think that Lockheed Martin, through our 100-year history, we definitely have the technologies to help. And we, just like what you said, we are one of the leading defense contractors in the world. We actually partner with other companies as well to produce a lot of our platforms as well. So we have the capabilities, we have the experiences, and so Lockheed Martin is in a unique position to help countries like Greece to improve their defensive posture.
Well, actually, the history between Greece and Lockheed Martin goes way back for more than 70 years. So we know the great experience we have using the Lockheed Martin programs and, of course, projects. So you mentioned that, of course, Lockheed can help Greece establish a defense line in the cybersecurity section. Is Greece ready to, for example, and of course Lockheed Martin, for an actual cooperation regarding new projects? I mean, the Defense Ministry has declared that for every new procurement in every section, there is going to be a 25% of minimum in domestic production. I know Lockheed has in its mentality the cooperation in general, but due to the sensitivity of this project, is there any chance for other countries to participate in these programs? And of course, I'm referring specifically to Greece.
Yeah, absolutely. There are, just like what you said, we have worked with different countries around the world. We have what's called a lot of these industry offset projects as well, just like what you said, where you have the main programs, but you also have the obligation. We, as in Lockheed Martin, we have the obligation to work with the in-country leading companies and to grow their expertise, as well as stimulating their local economy as well. And so we have done that with many countries. We have partnered with a lot of these in-country companies to beef up their cybersecurity capabilities, and also they can help them prototype their portfolio. And so, I mean, definitely that's one of the reasons why we would like to help Greece, for a country like Greece, because there are so many different ways that we can help, and cyber is, just like what I said, is basically everywhere, and it's part of the network world. And so anything from cyber AI to quantum threats, as I mentioned, to running CTTs or cyber tabletop exercises, providing cyber training, both at the university, college level, as well as high school level. We can do a lot of that to improve the to raise the awareness, but also to improve the country's defensive posture as well. And then at the country level, there is a lot of war gaming exercises that that any country the countries can participate as well. I've worked with the U.S. Forces on some of these activities as well, and oftentimes we would bring in foreign partners as well. And I mean, you mentioned about being the NATO partner, and we can certainly do something like that as well, or at least I have observed some of these activities.
Great. So I have to ask you one last question, because I believe it's quite difficult, because in the physical world, when a threat is emerging, we know exactly when the threat is actually bigger, so that we should consider it as an act of war. But in the digital space, in the cyber space, when should we consider an act to be actually an act of war? Because the threat might be even bigger than a physical threat, but we don't see, physical damage. So when should we consider it as an exact act of war?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and it's probably a very tricky question, because I actually attended some of the cyber conferences a few years ago, and somebody in the audience have mentioned that U.S. we are already at war, and of course what he's really talking about is the fact that we are constantly under cyber attacks, and so it is important to understand how we can protect ourselves, how we can protect our information, our information systems. And so, but just like what you said, in cyber, I guess a big challenge is actually attribution. Unlike like physical warfare, like with tanks, missiles, and airplanes, you can sort of tell where they're coming from, what kind of munition that they have dropped to certain countries, and you can kind of trace it back and say that, hey, this country is attacking my country, for example. But in cyber, it's a little bit more challenging due to the fact that cyber is a virtual space, I would say, and even if you can track the cyber attack to IP address from a specific country, it's often hard to say that, hey, this cyber actor actually represents that particular country. For all we know, they can launch these cyber attacks from anywhere around the world physically, and so it's not like a physical missile that they launch. So it's very hard to say that this country is doing something to another country. And so this attribution is a big problem because you don't know who the cyber actors are, if they are state sponsor, or maybe just a hacktivist, or maybe a teenager who got nothing to do in his parents' basement, and they decided to launch some cyber attacks, that sort of thing. We have seen that happening, and so it's really hard to identify like who's behind these attacks. And so I'm not a politician, but just from the technical perspective, I would say that all we can really do is to better protect ourselves, but make no mistake about it, we are definitely fighting a cyber warfare right now as we speak, every day. And so that's really that's why cyber is paramount to a country's protection.
Mm-hmm. Well, to your opinion, which cyber attack is the most impressive that ever happened, regarding, of course, the known ones? Because we've seen some famous ones. For example, I can recall the Stacks attack in Iran from Israel, and of course many others. So which one should you consider that is the most impressive regarding its effectiveness?
Yeah. So I mentioned earlier about the Ukraine power grid incident, and I think that's an interesting use case because it demonstrates to people that cyber attacks can be happening to a country's power grid or maybe some kind of utility company. So in the past, it's not always clear that people understood how that happened. And interestingly, a lot of the malware that the attackers use, they are available commercially. It's not like something that they develop. They might have modified those malware tools to a specific needs, to a specific targeted system. But in general, these are like tools and capabilities that you can download from the internet, and you can even buy some of these cyber kit, cyber toolkit, these days. And so it's really, interesting how the dynamics, continue to evolve between cyber offensive and cyber defensive sides. And so you mentioned about the Stuxnet, and that's certainly one of the more interesting use cases out there, which involves, at least at the time, it was a 0-day attack. But like I said, 0-day or not, we all need to protect ourselves and walk away with the knowledge that, hey, these are things that we need to do, and that really speaks volume to a lot of the defensive work that we have done. You cannot control what other people are doing to you or to your system, but you can control how you react, and certainly how you protect yourselves. And so I think that's the important message there, is to raise the general awareness so that we can better prepare for the next wave of cyber attacks, whether it's at the country level or at the personal level. But going back to your original question, yes, certainly that Stuxnet was one of the more interesting cyber incidents, and also the Ukraine power grid incident as well. So.
Great. Well, I would like to thank you for all this fantastic and very interesting info you shared with us. The last word is yours. Please feel free to say whatever you feel that hasn't been said. It is important for our discussion.
Yeah, I would say that, for the general audience, I think it's important to protect yourselves, and also understanding what cyber threats really mean to you, what the cyber attacks, what the cyber attackers might do to you, to your medical records, bank statements and things like that. I think that's important, and also coming up with ways to better monitor what's out there, who's using your information. I think that's important. It goes back to what I was saying about confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So that's a framework that we typically use when we think about cyber defenses. So think about so think along those lines here, how we can come up with defensive measures, and how we can more effectively detect suspicious activities. I get a constant flood of these emails as well as texts on my cell phone these days. I mean, every day I would have 50, 60 of these emails. To just be aware that there are some bad people trying to do bad things to you, and they do want to steal your credentials so that they can launch other attacks, or maybe they want to blackmail you, for example. So just be cognizant of what's out there, what the dangers are. I mean, obviously, we're not here to ask people to stop using the internet, or to stop to be on YouTube or TikTok or things like that. But it is important to protect yourself. So I think that's a message.
Great. I would like to thank you again. And of course, I would like you to consider giving a lecture in a Greek university, because I believe a lot of people would like to hear live all this very interesting info you shared with us today. Thank you so much again for being here with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ambrose Kam from Lockheed Martin. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the
Bye-bye.
opportunity.
Bye-bye.